Hello and welcome to the start of another reading vlog. It's the end of my workday and the start of the Easter long weekend, which is so exciting. I'm about to head home so that we can pack and get going because we've got a little bit of a road trip. We're going up to Tamworth in the country for the long weekend for a tennis tournament. But I thought I would check in and start a reading vlog that I think is going to go for the next week, just because I am so excited to finally get started on some of my autumn TBR and get started on some fantasy reads that I'm looking forward to. So we are pretty busy this weekend. We've got the tennis competition, so I'll be probably spending a lot of my time at the tennis courts, and we're also staying with some friends, so we'll probably be going out with them and just exploring the town. So I doubt that I will get too much reading done while we're there, but I should have some time while I'm sitting there at the tennis courts to read a little bit on my Kindle, and it's a 5-hour drive there and back, so I should have quite a lot of reading time just on the drive. But my reading plans for the week, I am currently in the middle of 2 books. I'm in the middle of one book on my Kindle and I just started an audiobook. So obviously, firstly I want to finish those off and then I want to get into some fantasy. But the audiobook that I have just started, I'm about 20% into, is Next of Kin by Bonam-Young. And this is the first book that I have read from this author and I'm liking her writing so far. This is one of her older books. I think this was one of the first books that she published from what I could see on Goodreads, and it has a pretty interesting plotline. We follow Chloe, who had a pretty difficult childhood. She had an alcoholic mum and kind of ended up going from foster parent back to her mum to foster parents for a while until she was eventually adopted to a more well-off family. And at the start of the book, she is just feeling a little bit lonely. She's recently finished college and her 2 roommates that she met at college have moved away, and because of her upbringing, she's always kind of struggled with making friends and also with dating. And so her 2 friends have moved away and she's feeling really lonely. And right at the start of the book, she finds out that her birth mum has had another baby. So she has a sister, but she's like immediately worried because her mum is unstable and an alcoholic. So she immediately goes to the hospital, and when she gets there, the baby's on life support, and she immediately gets started on looking for options for next of kin adoptions so that she can look after her baby sister. And that storyline is really sweet. It's already so nice to see her starting to fall in love with this little baby and just her trying to give her a better life and a better upbringing than what she had. But yeah, it's super interesting. So I don't know if this is a real thing, but because Chloe she's only just out of college and she doesn't have a solid job yet. She did like a creative degree and she has a little bit of freelance work, but she doesn't have a solid income, so she can't get approved to adopt this baby. So she finds this program where essentially 2 adoptive parents need to work together to raise these kids. And so she has a place to live, but she doesn't have an approved income. So she gets paired up with Warren, and Warren has recently been trying to adopt his teenage brother. He has a solid income, but he has been struggling to find them a place to live. So this is where this program comes in. They move in together and essentially help each other out. It's a very interesting plot and something I've never really seen in a romance before. I'm not sure about Warren so far. He's obviously going to become the romantic interest. At the moment, he's just this kind of standoffish, rude guy who has come to move into her house but doesn't really want anything to do with her, which I kind of understand. They've both got difficult situations that they're going through. So I'm interested to see how it goes. As I said, I'm only like 20% into this, so I am excited to keep going. At the moment, I'm just liking the writing, and I was pretty intrigued right from the start just because the plotline seems so interesting. So that's Next of Kin, and actually the only reason that I started that audiobook is because I I'm struggling to remember who it was now, but I saw a YouTube video of somebody raving about the second book in that series. It's an interconnected standalone romance series, and the second book is called Next to You. So I have that saved on my Libby as well from my library, and as soon as I finish this one I'll try to get into that, because just the plot of that one sounded intriguing to me. But yeah, I'm enjoying this one too, so I'll see how I go. But that is the audiobook I'm currently listening to. I am also in the middle of Believe Me on my Kindle, and this is the final book and the final novella in the Shadow Me series. I am so excited to finally be here. I'm already about halfway through this and I'm really enjoying it. It's cute. It's kind of like just basically an extended epilogue. We finished up the whole plot in the final full-length novel of the series, which is the last book, and in this one we're just kind of getting a little bit of background into how they're dealing with events of the world after everything has finished in the last one, and we're getting this cute little kind of happily ever after plotline, I guess, which is really sweet. But I am very excited to finally be finishing off this series, and once I do, I would really love to get started on Six of Crows. So I'm assuming I'll finish this on the drive down and get started on Six of Crows. So that should be something I can start tonight. And I'm so excited. I literally can't wait to get into that book. So I will try and take some videos while I'm down there to get some footage to add. But otherwise, I will check in as soon as I've read a little bit more. Monday afternoon. Unfortunately, it's the last day of the long weekend and we got back from Tamworth yesterday, and I'm just here cutting up some paper. My goal at the moment is I just really want to get through a lot more of my physical books, and I thought a really fun way to do that would be to put together some TBR jars and create some videos. I think I want to create a TBR jar just with prompts, and each month find maybe 5 or 6 books on my shelves that I need to read that month based on prompts that I pick out of the jar. And the other one that I'm thinking of doing is a video that I've seen Emily Fox on YouTube do. She's been doing this series for a long time, where she just puts her entire physical TBR on pieces of paper in a jar, and she picks out each one and she decides whether she wants to keep it by reading it, or if she DNFs it, she has to get rid of the book. So I am going to go to Kmart after this and buy 2 jars, but I'm basically just sitting here with a whole lot of scrapbook paper that I've had for ages, and I'm cutting up these strips into little pieces that I'm writing the prompts on. So for example, a book with your favorite color. So I thought I might as well, while I'm doing this, just sit down and talk about the books that I read over the weekend. Because like I said in my last update, I didn't get to too much reading. Obviously we had the long drives to get to Tamworth and back. So I did finish the novella that I was in the middle of, which was Believe Me. And that is the last book in the Shadow Me series. And I'm really happy to be finished up with that series. I'm pretty relieved that it's done, but it was a very, very sweet ending to the series. So this one was essentially an extended epilogue, and we get like a sweet ending to Warner and Juliet's story and a bit of a wrap up to the world. They kind of talk about their plans for rebuilding the world, and that was nice. I think something that I realized is something about her writing style annoys me in terms of how much inner monologue and just rambling on that we get inside their heads, whichever point of view we're in. There's just so much rambling about what they're thinking about, and it ends up meaning that there's a lot more. I feel like the series is a lot longer than it needed to be because of that. It worked for me in the first couple of books for some reason, but after that it just kind of felt too long. And this one is the same. It's really sweet that we get Warner's point of view, and I did like that in some parts, but again, we just get his rambling on so much. And this was a short book. It was only like just over 100 pages, but it still felt too long. I think it could have just been an epilogue at the end of the last book. But, you know, there were some good parts. I did enjoy the humor. As I've kind of said throughout the series, I do love the humor. I love Kenji and Warner, and their dynamic in this was pretty funny. And I did like the tone of hopefulness that they're going to be rebuilding their lives and rebuilding the world. And yeah, it was pretty cute. Not much to say. I'm just really glad that that series is finally over. It only took me like 3 years to get through it, but it was fun, and I would definitely still recommend. I'm not sure if I would recommend the books after the initial trilogy, although I am still happy I read them because it really does wrap up what happens in the world after the events of that trilogy. And I've seen that there is a new series that she's come out with which follows James, who was kind of a kid throughout this series, and it follows him. So I'm curious where she is taking the world now. So even though I am excited to be done, I think I would consider getting into that one too, because I love James. He's such a cute character. So yeah, that was Believe Me. And I also, over the course of the weekend, finished an audiobook that I spoke about in my last update that I had just started, and that was Next of Kin by Bonam-Young. And I did end up liking this. I really liked her writing, and I know this is one of her first books that she published, I think, looking at the dates on Goodreads. And knowing that, I'm very excited to read more from her, because yeah, it was a solid read. I rated it 3 stars, and the main issues that I had came from the second half of the book. I was really enjoying it for the first half. I liked their dynamic. So I think I explained the main plot of the book in my last update. But basically, Chloe is trying to adopt her baby sister, and she is recently out of college, so she doesn't really have a job. She's got freelance work, but she doesn't have a full-time job yet, and especially becoming a mother, she doesn't really have time for a full-time job. But she does have a 2-bedroom apartment, and so Warren is also trying to adopt his teenage brother, and he has a full-time job. He's got a solid income, but they're struggling to find a place to live in the city. So the Next of Kin kind of program that they're in allows them to both adopt their siblings as long as they work together and live together to help each other out. And it's an interesting dynamic because they've both had very difficult backgrounds. Warren starts off as a very standoffish kind of a character, especially to Chloe. He's doing everything for his brother, but he doesn't really want anything to do with her, or he doesn't want them to help each other out, because he wants to live his life and separate as soon as he can, get his own place. But it's very sweet to see how quickly that changes, and as they start living together, they just bond over their trauma and over different things, similarities that they have, and it's really, really sweet seeing the ways that he helps her out, because she has suddenly become a mother to a baby, and she's just not at all equipped for this, so she's struggling. And he does little things to help her out in ways that he doesn't really want her to notice. And I just loved the four of them slowly starting to become kind of like a family unit in their own unique way. And yeah, Warren does little things like he'll hold Willow, the baby, when Chloe is, needs to have a shower, just have a little bit of time for herself. He lets her borrow his car while he's out at work all day, and then he starts adding little things to the car that she notices, like an emergency kit and a little mirror that he puts so that she can see the baby seat. And yeah, it's just very sweet. But throughout it, the stakes are very high for them, because obviously they can't do anything wrong to get their siblings taken off them. So all of that was kind of the first 50%, I'm pretty sure. And I really did lose interest in the second half of the book. It kind of felt a little bit insta-lovey to me after that, which I was so surprised about. Just with the storyline and their situations, I really thought that there would be a much more drawn out friendship development first, and then eventually they would fall in love. But yeah, it did become very insta-lovey. They started saying I love you very quickly, and it just felt a little bit immature to me. I don't know. I know that she hasn't had much experience with dating, with friends in general, and I felt at times like Warren was taking advantage of Chloe a little bit. Yeah, he felt very toxic to me. At the start, he was really rude and he didn't want anything to do with her or Willow. And then he just seemed to flip very quickly into this like really loving guy, and they get in a relationship, and he felt a little bit love bomby at that point. And then as soon as something goes wrong, he gets extremely angry and a little bit violent. And I don't know, that did get resolved and the ending was very cute, but something about him just felt toxic. And yeah. And it could also be a toxic trait of mine, but as soon as the couple gets together, I get disinterested a lot of the time, and that did happen. So for it to happen so early on in the book, I just kind of didn't care for the whole second half of the book. Except for the plot line about Willow and Chloe. I loved their little family that they build together, and yeah, it was very cute seeing her take care of her baby sister. The ending was very cute, and I am very excited to get into the second one, which I think I mentioned in my first update, but the entire reason that I read this was because I heard someone ranting about the second book of the series, which is called Next to You. And now I've met the characters that are in that book. That is Matt and Leigh. So Leigh is Chloe's friend, who she kind of comes into the book in the second half because she moves back to the city that they live in, and their friendship is really cute. And Matt is Warren's friend that we kind of met at a party. And yeah, I like both of them, so I'm intrigued to see how they come together as friends of both Chloe and Warren. I'm guessing that's how a romance kind of happens. So I will definitely get to that one soon, but the next audiobook that I want to listen to is the second book in the Windy City series, which is The Right Move by Leigh Tomforde. And I have the audiobook for this one ready on my Libby from my library, and I've heard good things about the audiobook, so I think I'm going to give that a try. And I have really, really, really high hopes for this specific romance because I've heard just so much about it. I've heard so many people love it and that it's their favorite book in this series. So if I don't love the narrators, I will give up on that pretty quickly and read the physical book. But this one is obviously it's the second book in the Windy City series, and we follow Indy and Ryan, who we met both of them in the first book. Indy is Stevie's best friend from the first book and also co-worker, so she also works as a flight attendant to this hockey team. And Ryan is Stevie's brother. I think he's her twin brother actually, and he's a very protective kind of a brother figure in the first book. And he's also an athlete. He's on the Chicago team's basketball team. And all I know about this is they live together. Indy has been cheated on at the start of this book and she needs a place to live. So Stevie convinces Ryan to let her move in with him temporarily. And so there's forced proximity with that. And then somehow they get into a fake dating kind of a situation. So I am so excited to start that one just because I've heard so much about it and it's so many people's favorite romance, and I know I'm so late to it. I read the first book in the series so long ago, so I need to get to it. I don't know why I'm putting it off. That will be my next read. And while we were in Tamworth, I also started Six of Crows. Basically, as soon as I finished Believe Me on the trip to Tamworth, I started Six of Crows. So I am about 30% into this now, and I am obsessed so far. I'm so excited that I'm finally reading this. I've put it off for so long. I read the Shadow and Bone trilogy I think over 2 years ago now, and the only reason I read that series was because I wanted to get to Six of Crows, because this is the one that everyone loves. And I don't know why I hadn't started it yet, but the storyline of this one is that we follow a whole new cast of characters in a different city, separate to where Shadow and Bone was set. We're now in Ketterdam, I think it's pronounced, which is kind of like an old Amsterdam inspired city. And it sounds really cool. There's like the canals and it's like a port kind of a city. And we follow Kaz, and he basically runs like a mob in this world. He owns like a gambling parlor, and he really reminds me of like Tommy, is his name Tommy Shelby, the Peaky Blinders guy? He's that same kind of brutal character, but he's also extremely intelligent. And so all I knew about it was that there was a heist that 6 characters go on, but the actual storyline behind the reason for this heist is really intriguing. So there is this new kind of magic that has come out. So we learned about the Grisha and the magic that they have in Shadow and Bone, but in this one there's been this new kind of drug that's been discovered that can make Grisha insanely powerful and dangerous, but it's really dangerous to them too. It only lasts a very short amount of time and it's really addictive. So when it wears off, they're extremely weak and tired and exhausted and just craving more, and they're not themselves anymore. So the fact that this drug amplifies their powers in these really extreme ways is really dangerous for society, but also it is really dangerous for Grisha in the way that they could be used as slaves. And so that's how the book starts out. We see a Grisha girl who has been forced to take this drug, and then we meet Kaz and the rest of the group as they're going on this heist adventure to essentially break into a prison that has this scientist who created this drug, because they want to steal the scientist so that they kind of stop this drug from being more widely accessed, because it could destroy the world. And just where I'm up to, I am obsessed. I love all of the characters. I am loving getting their backstories and just the dark kind of griminess of the world that they live in. It's really intriguing, and I'm loving the planning of the heist. So yeah, I'm really excited to keep going with this one. I will check in when I have finished it, But yeah, those are my plans for the next few days. I'm just gonna keep going with Six of Crows and get started on the right move. So I will keep going with this and I'll check in with you when I have some more updates. So, speaking of Six of Crows, I had the best surprise. My Illumicrate order arrived and I completely forgot that this one was coming because I ordered this like so long ago now, but this I'm pretty sure because my normal Illumicrate subscription is book only, so the box is a lot smaller than this. So when it's this size, it's normally a series. And I remembered that I ordered the Six of Crows duology, their special edition version. And this is like perfect timing for it to be arriving now because I bought it and I thought I'll get to it eventually, but I don't think I realized that I would start reading it this soon. And so the fact that I am now halfway through and absolutely obsessed with it makes this just so much better. Okay, so we have Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. There's the Six Crows. No mourners. No mourners, no funerals. That's Kaz. I probably said this already, but I am loving Kaz. Oh my god. This is beautiful. The city that they live in is an old Amsterdam inspired fantasy city, and I get that from with the canals and everything, but I kind of get that from this illustration. I love it. It's got the gold foiling and it feels cool. It's like shiny and matte textures. And then Crooked Kingdom, which I obviously haven't started reading yet, has the red foiling. And the illustrations. Oh wow. Oh, weird. This one's upside down. I wonder, I feel like this is not how it's meant to be. This one is facing this way, but then the outside is upside down. The words are all upside down on the spine too. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not how it's meant to be because this one is the right way. Like, I doubt it's supposed to sit like that. Okay. I might need to contact Illumicrate and ask about that, but that's okay. They're really good at fixing things if they make any mistakes. I don't know, it could be something to do with this book and the plot. I don't know what happens in this book. Is there something to do with the town, the city being upside down? I think it's a mistake, but that's fine. I'm still so excited, and I won't be reading these copies anyway. I've downloaded them both on Kindle, so that's where I've been reading Six of Crows. But I'm so excited. These are beautiful. I love these illustrations. Okay, I'm back because I'm a dummy. I've just looked at a few unboxings on TikTok, and it is supposed to be upside down. It's kind of supposed to be like a reflection of each one. They do look cool. The spine's like that, now that I know that it's on purpose. I like that it's like a reflection from the water upside down. Just thought I would clarify. Check in because I have a couple of presents that I got last night when I was at a family dinner that I wanted to go through because they're so cute. My birthday was like 2 months ago now, so it's just cute. I feel like I hadn't seen this side of the family yet since my birthday. And I also have a little unhaul. I have a few books that I'm going to try and drop into some little free libraries at some point. So I just thought I'd show you those, and also this cute little presents that I got. The first thing, I saw my mum, and like, this is not for my birthday. She's already got me all my presents a little while ago, but she got these cute little ducks from a little store down in Bowral when she was there. So she gave me these. They're so cute. I love the little one with the heart on it, and he's got an eye patch. I need to find somewhere to put these, but I just thought they were super cute. My auntie is super thoughtful. She knows I love reading, and I spent like the holidays with her over Christmas, and my New Year's resolution, my only, like, I don't really do New Year's resolutions too much, but this year the only thing that I wanted to do was drink more tea. And so she got me one of these T2 tea and books sets, and apart from that, so that already comes with a bit of tea. She also got me this tea set, which has so many different flavors of tea, some that I've never heard of, to help me along with my New Year's resolutions. And she also got me a roundhouse plate. I had to go find it because I've already used it, but it's this one. She's so sweet. But yeah, inside this box comes with the mug, 3 teas. Well, the mug, 3 different types of tea, which are in these boxes that look like books, and then a book. So the book that's in here is Little Women, and the teacup has a little quote from Little Women on it. Little boxes of tea. So each one, there's 3 of these, and each one has a different tea in it, and they're all kind of themed around books. So this one says Earl Grey, A Taste of Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I love that. And then the book, this is actually just the box. The book is also like a special edition penguin with the same pattern as the cup. I just think it's so cute. I'm so happy. And I just love thoughtful presents like that because it's it's two things that that she knows that I will definitely use. Oh, and then she also got me this cute Peter Alexander little sleeping shirt with a rainbow on it. It's nice and oversized. I love that. So then I have a little bit of an unhaul. These are books that I'm going to drop into little free libraries, and most of them I'm just kind of getting rid of just because I don't have space anymore. So getting rid of Alex Approximately, which I did love. It's a cute little YA romance, but I'm not going to read it again. It's got such a cute cover though. But yeah, I'm definitely not going to read that again. And I have a couple of other, so Jen Bennett wrote Alex Approximately, and she also wrote these two. I think they're all YA romances, and I've owned them for so long now, and I feel like if I'm going to read them, I could just read them on my Kindle. I just don't need to own them physically, because so far I don't seem to be interested in getting to them. This one, Priory of the Orange Tree. This is a bit of a sad one because I love the cover. It's such a pretty book. But again, I've owned it for so long and I haven't read it, and I think it's just such a chunky book that it might be more comfortable to read on my Kindle. So for now, I don't think I need it. This one I do want to get to, definitely, but I want to read through the Throne of Glass series before I read this, and it's just taking up space. I've got really small bookshelves. We live in a little 2-bedroom apartment, and I just don't have space for all the books that I've got, and there are more exciting books that I have. So again, I think I'll just read this on my Kindle whenever I get to it. I love that though. Same thing with Crooked Kingdom. I actually have a special edition of Six of Crows, and this edition doesn't match it, so it didn't look that great on the shelf. And if I really like Six of Crows and want to continue on with the series, I will read it on my Kindle, or I'll try and get the special edition of this one as well so it matches. Okay, so this one, I own the People We Meet on Vacation edition, like the US paperback, and I like it more, so rid of that one. This, A Dark So Deadly by Stuart McBride. I've never heard anybody talk about it. I don't know where I got this from. I think I might have got it from like one of those little stalls at the markets or something, and I'm just not really interested in it, so that's going. The Hating Game. I've just owned it for so long. I did really love it when I first read it, but I just don't see myself doing a reread of this one. And again, if I do, I'll read it on my Kindle. It just doesn't need to be taking up space on my shelves. And then Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. I just did tab this a little bit, really pretty rainbow tabs, but I didn't love this one. And when I look at it, it doesn't bring me joy, so I'm getting rid of it. I definitely will never reread this one. So yeah, I'm gonna try and take all of those around to some little free libraries that we have in the area. So hopefully someone else will find happiness in these books that aren't bringing me joy at the moment. Alright, I'm checking in again because since I last spoke, I have finished The Right Move by Liz Tomforde, and it has been about a week since I checked in. I've had my hair done, it's looking fresh again, and I thought it was time to do a bit of a reading update. So I finished The Right Move. I am giving this one 4 stars. I did really enjoy it. I think I had very high expectations for this one and they weren't 100% met. So I think I gave a bit of an overview of what the storyline's about. But in this one we follow Ryan and Indy, and we met both of these characters in the first book. Indy was Stevie's best friend and co-worker. So she also works as a flight attendant on the hockey team's private jet. And Ryan is Stevie's twin brother. And so we met him in the first one. He was kind of the overprotective brother. He's a star basketball player. He's the captain of his team. And in this one, Indy has just found out that her boyfriend has cheated on her. So she's devastated and she is looking for a place to live, but also because of some other personal issues, she's really trying to save money at the moment. And so Stevie has recently moved out of her brother's apartment since she's moved in with Xander's. So she convinces him to let Indy move in just temporarily while she figures her life out. And pretty quickly at the start of the book, they move in together and they find out that they're very different people. Indy is quite messy. She has so many clothes that she kind of just leaves everywhere, and she loves color. Whereas Ryan is a huge neat freak. His personality is a little bit robot-like at the start, and he's just very serious. And immediately Indy starts making changes to the apartment. She adds color everywhere, but he kind of likes it. It's a bit cute. And then soon after she moves in with him, Ryan kind of realizes that the general manager of his basketball team isn't really respecting him enough. He views him as really cold and too serious, and as he's the captain of the team, this is coming off poorly to the rest of his team. And he sees the way that his general manager acts with his teammate Ethan, and Ethan has a wife and a family, and they all go out together. His wife gets along with the general manager's wife, and so he kind of comes up with this fake dating plot to have Indy pretend to be his girlfriend when it comes to the general manager. And at the same time, Indy has one of her best friend's weddings coming up, and her ex who cheated on her is going to be at that wedding. So it's kind of helpful for both of them that they get into this fake dating relationship. She can bring this star basketball player to the wedding, and his general manager will hopefully see a bit of a softer side of him when all of them hang out outside of the court. So the tropes in this one were really fun. Obviously there was close proximity because they're living together, and I love a fake dating trope, and it was done really, really well in this. I also did love the slow burn. It was so slow burn for, I think, the first like 70%. It was perfect, and the tension was so good. I also loved both Ryan and Indy. Indy is this like sunshine character. She is friendly to everyone. She's confident and outgoing, and I love seeing her from Ryan's point of view as other people in his life are meeting her, and she just immediately warms to everyone. And it's such a contradiction to his personality, where he is a bit more reserved and a bit more serious, but you can tell that he loves that in her. But yeah, I also loved Ryan. On the outside, he's very gruff and serious, but he also does these really, really sweet things for Indy. And you can really see that on the inside, he's so kind and caring, and they just work so well together. And yeah, while they're living together, just as friends, he does these really cute things for her. Like, I think right at the start, she mentions the fact that because she's on the road so much for work, she can never keep flowers alive, so she never gets to have flowers around the house. She has plants, but he immediately just starts buying flowers and taking care of them for her, which is so cute. And for the first like 60-70% of the book, the tension was so good. Also the jealousy in little parts was so good. There's this one scene, I I don't want to say too much, but basically she runs into her ex and he's like a super fan of Ryan. And it was just like the perfect revenge because he's just such a jerk. And the fact that he is a fan of Ryan, loved it. So if I was just going off the first like 50, 60, 70% alone, it would be a 5-star read. But after that point, it did start to get a little bit long. Like it's a chunky book. It was like a 14-hour audiobook, and it's almost 500 pages long. And they get together at about the 70% mark, and after that there was, I think, something like 4 hours still left on the audiobook, and I was like, what could possibly happen in these 4 hours? And obviously the plot kept going on and things happened, but I was just a little bit bored after that. And also I think my only other negative is just, it was very sweet, but the way that Ryan acted towards the end, like in that last 30% or so, just felt a bit unrealistic when compared to what he was like at the start. Like, I feel like he could have kept his personality but still be obsessed and in love with Indy. I just couldn't fully grasp how he did such a complete 180 to who he was at the start, and the things that he was saying kind of completely contradicted the things that he was saying and thinking at the start of the book and even in the middle of the book. But I did like that he had a lot that he had to go through and had to get through internally, and he did have a big sort of personality improvement, which was nice. And I loved, I don't know if this is a spoiler, I'm not going to say it, but there was this big thing that he did for Indy and her family that I loved so much. It was so sweet, and she got so emotional when that happened, and I felt a little bit emotional when that happened too. And yeah, I loved that. And Indy as a character is my favorite kind of female main character to read from. We're in her perspective, and she's this, you know, bubbly, friendly, colorful person, but on the inside she has insecurities and issues that she's dealing with. She was a more complex character than I expected, and overall a very fun read. I am excited to get to the next book in this series because we met, I think his name is Max, who's the male main character in the next book. But we didn't get too much of him. I just know that he is a single dad who, they talk about the fact that he keeps firing his nannies. He hasn't been able to find somebody who he trusts enough with his kid. So I'm assuming the next one is going to be some kind of nanny romance, which I'm excited for. And now that I've read 2 of Liz Tomforde's books, I know that I love her writing. So I'm very excited to keep going with the series. So that was the right move. And I also, over the last few days, I have been just moving forward with 6 of Crows, and all I'm gonna say now is I'm still obsessed. The more I read, the more I love, but I only have, I think, 10% or so to go with that one. So I'm just gonna finish it up in the next couple of days, and then I will do an update with my final thoughts. So I'll see you when I finish with that one. All right, I'm checking in to do my final update of the vlog because last night I finished 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and I loved it. 5 stars. It's a Wednesday, it's a work from home day. I also got my flu shot yesterday, and I thought I would spend my lunch break talking about my thoughts on 6 of Crows. And firstly, I am obsessed. It was a 5-star fantasy read. I'm so glad that I finally got to this, and I'm so excited to get to Crooked Kingdom very soon. So I already kind of spoke about the main plot of this, and I don't want to give too much away because I went into this one pretty blind, and I loved it that way. I loved learning about the magic in this and this kind of plot that I just hadn't expected. All I knew was that it was a heist fantasy, and I felt like the plot was quite unexpected, and I loved it. But basically we follow 6 crows who live in this kind of old Amsterdam inspired fantasy world. And because of this new drug that has been discovered by a scientist that's extremely dangerous and harmful to Grisha, but also could end up destroying the world if it gets into the wrong hands, this group ends up going on a heist to rescue the scientist from a prison and save the world while they're also getting extremely rich. I don't really want to say much more about the plot than that, but I loved all of the characters. We get point of views from all 6 of the crows, and we learn about each of them and their families and what's happened to them, how they've ended up working for Kaz in this kind of underworld of Ketterdam. And then we slowly see, as they go on this heist, all of them bond, and the little couples that are formed and the friendships and the kind of found family that is made by the end of the heist. And yeah, by about the halfway point, I was 100% obsessed. I was addicted, and I ended up reading this within about a week, just because any spare time that I had, I was dedicating to reading it. And I didn't have that much spare time, so it's a long book. I think it's over 500 pages. Just got halfway into talking about the book and I realized I should have been holding up my new special edition of it. I'm still so obsessed that this came while I was in the middle of reading it, and just so unexpected because I pre-ordered this set and I just completely forgot it was coming. So let's appreciate the characters again. And now that I know and love them all and their relationships, it's just even better. But yeah, it was very sad at times because each of them have really horrible backgrounds, and especially some of the girls, they've experienced some really awful stuff to get to where they are with Kaz. And Kaz's background was so heartbreaking. I love him so much. I don't want to give too much away, but I'm obsessed with his relationship with one of the other crows. He's just this really intriguing, complex character who is really cold and harsh, but also extremely intelligent. And when you're in his point of view, you start to see his insecurities and fears. And yeah, he has a lot of depth. They all have a lot of depth, which I loved. I think I'm realizing that I'm definitely a character-focused person when it comes to fantasy, and this was definitely a character-focused book. I also enjoyed the planning of the heist, and the heist itself was very fun, very stressful at times, and I felt like the ending was pretty epic. I didn't guess exactly what would happen, and I'm so excited to get to Crooked Kingdom, which is the final book in the duology. I love that this one is just a duology. I didn't really have to get into a long series, and this one is a bit longer, but I've heard it's a lot of people's favorite of the series, so I'm not too intimidated now that I know them. I'm just excited to get to it very soon. One thing, while reading this book, there was an interesting discussion going on TikTok, because people had realized that in one of the new special editions that had been released, not this one, thankfully I checked, but the text had been changed so that essentially the main characters had been aged up. So they kind of took out anywhere that it states their age. In the original text, they often talk about the fact that they're roughly like 16 or 17. So it's definitely a young adult fantasy, but it's like they're trying to market it towards more adult readers in this new edition. And that caused a lot of backlash. I know a lot of fans who have been loving the series are really upset by it. And just in general, the whole discussion around owning physical books because that text can't be changed is interesting, and something I've never really thought about, because I do read a lot on my Kindle and I love reading on my Kindle, but it is interesting to think about the fact that things can just be changed digitally so easily. But my thoughts on Six of Crows and the characters being aged up, I personally, in my head, kind of did age them up anyway, just because, not that it was unrealistic what the characters were doing and what they were going through, because I know, unfortunately, it is the reality of young people around the world, some of the things that happen to these kids. But it just makes me sad to think of the things that they were going through, things like slavery and sex trafficking, and like the scenes at the menagerie in this book. I personally just didn't want to picture them as kids. So yeah, I, in my head, kind of had them as young adults, more like early 20s anyway. But I could see how people who read this when they were teenagers and who have loved it for so many years would be really disappointed in the publishers and in maybe Leigh Bardugo. I'm not sure whose decision it was, but by this change. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that that discussion started up again while I was in the middle of reading the book for the first time. But I am so happy to have started this duology, and I'm very excited to get to Crooked Kingdom very soon, and I'll share my thoughts as soon as I do. But thank you so much for coming along on this reading vlog with me. I've read some really amazing books over the last week or so, and I'm really glad I documented my experience. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Please like and consider subscribing, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.